How's it going, everybody? How's it going, Instagram people, beautiful people of Instagram? This is Jose Trujillo, 10 minutes late to Mindset Mondays. Mindset Mondays at noon, okay? Every Monday at noon, Mindset Mondays. Don't forget, guys, I won't. So today, being a Mindset Monday, I want to talk to you guys about keeping that mindset on point, right? Keeping your mind checked. There's a lot of stuff that's said about this kind of deal. You know, about I'm talking to people who are maybe you don't have to be an artist to cognate on this. You don't have to be like a painter or anything like that. You all you have to be is as a human being to understand this. Like the way your mind is how everything else carries. Like if your mind is not right, it's not on point. And then everything else just kind of follows your mind, right? It follows your mindset. The thing is, I got my Starbucks. The thing is, what keeps, how do we control that, right? Like most people are like, you can't, you don't control that. How do you control having your mindset at the right state, right? At the right vibration, let's call it that. Because if your mind is the one that carries everything, right? If your mind is the one that is in charge, if you think little, you do little. If you think big, you do big. It really has to do with your mindset. But many times you can think big, but you're still like in a bad mood or you're in a bad vibration. You're like things are not working or whatever. I found out in my life that a lot of that has to do with you're never good at the stuff you don't do enough, and many times we operate on what's called a zone, right? And as artists, it happens to us a lot that we want to get back to the zone, but the zone is a place you go in through constant work. Like through constant work, you start getting in there and all of a sudden you start flowing, right? Because you get out of your head. So the constant work, the hours that you put in, take you out of your head. The thing is that many of us want to get into the zone, want to go into the zone just like that, just because. And I think that's why Picasso said, I believe in inspiration, but it has to find you working. I think Picasso really nailed this better than anyone else can probably articulate it. I believe in inspiration, but it has to find you working, right? Most of us, as working artists or whatnot, we seem to think that in order to make things happen for ourselves, or for things to start working for us, that all of a sudden we're going to fall into this great grandiose idea is going to come to us, or this whatever art style, or we saw some YouTube video and we're like, oh yeah, that's it. It'll help you, but just for a little bit. Like it'll ignite something. It'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. But what follows is persistence and work, right? What follows after that, and if we don't focus on that thing that follows, we find ourselves always trying to find inspiration. Okay, today's Mindset Mondays, and I talk about keeping your mindset right if you're an artist. So what happens if you don't create inspiration, if you don't create that workflow, that flow? How's it going? If you don't create that flow, that constant flow, like let's say you're like me, right? I show up to the studio every day, right? But just because I show up to the studio every day doesn't mean that every day I'm working to my capacity, to my max capacity, right? Like I'm at a high vibration level, like I like to call it. So some days I have really a lot of creativity and I have a lot of, a lot of momentum, right? I'm very quick. Things are happening. Things are rolling. I feel energized, right? No, I can't speak Turkish. I speak Spanish and English. So I have a lot of creativity those days, right? But the reason why I have a lot of creativity those days, guys, is because I've been on riding on momentum, right? I don't know if I'm making myself clear with this kind of stuff, because I know it sounds a little bit abstract. What I'm trying to say is that you're only going to get better if you keep putting more time, if you keep putting more hours. It's going to come down to time. It won't come down to like, oh man, I thought about something. That's great. Yes. And all of a sudden you go into a studio, you're like, yeah, you roll up your sleeves and you're like, I'm going to do it. We forget that the time that you put in, right? The amount of hours that you put in is what breeds that creativity. And then you're on flow. And the thing is that if you create that flow, right? And then you don't go to the studio for a couple of days, or you don't go to the studio with the same intensity, that flow is not going to sustain. It won't sustain. That's the thing that I keep finding myself with. Like, that flow won't sustain, because that flow it came out of you behaving in a way that you're working, you're moving, you're working, you're moving, but you're putting hours. You're not just going in there for like a little bit. You're putting hours at a time, so you become very creative, and you know what to do next, right? It's almost like you're dancing. You know what to do next. It happens to me often. The thing is that what I've been reflecting on is, man, like, how is it that my mindset really, it's like the mindset puts you in this place. But the mindset, it's not always there, right? This is what today is about, keeping your mindset on check. So what do you do? So a lot of people say, well, you read positive affirmations, which is totally true. You speak of yourself and of your artwork in a positive manner. Of course, if you don't do that, I mean, the door probably won't even open, like, for you to become creative, for you to walk in and start working, right? And I'm talking figuratively, of course. So, but I found out that many times I can't wait for my mind to be in that space, or I can't find myself to be in that place. So what can I do, right? What can I do to help my mind be in that place? What are some tools? So, again, some of the tools are, you write your goals down, right? You write your goals down. You write your positive affirmations. You have maybe posters in your studio that just, you're positive and say positive quotes. You don't listen to negative news. You don't go on negative rants with people and talk about, I don't know, politics or things that may be important, but that you may be spending too much time on, right? And other things, many other things, just things like gossip or whatever, right? Those things are not going to help you. Starbucks. So all these things, right, help. Being positive, writing your notes about, positive affirmations. I've talked about those. I'm going to be preparing some for you guys. Those of you who follow me on YouTube too, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please know that I'm going to be sharing some really cool stuff very soon to keep you in the right mindset. But the thing is that this whole idea of staying in the right mindset can have an impact on you, whether it's negative or positive, depending on where you are in your stage, in your career. If you call it a career, it's really an art business. We've kind of forgotten about this, You don't go somewhere and get paid for being an artist unless you're like an illustrator or something. But if you're a visual artist, a painter, sculpture, or plastic arts, it's not a career. Come on, guys. Let's get it straight. It's a business, and you have to behave as a business, right? So, how do you keep that mindset to show up and to keep working and to really push beyond the BS, right? Because a lot of us show up to work, but we show up to work like an hour here, an hour there. I get a lot of artists contact me and they're like, man, things are not working for me. And I'm like, well, do an audit of your time. Like, do an audit. How much are you really working? Right? So these little things, right? Like how much are you spending? I don't know. Priming canvases, right? How much are you spending? Like, what do you have to do an audit of your time? And I know this is a little bit off about mindset, but it really isn't. What I'm trying to say is, you have to do things that are very uncomfortable to keep to help your mindset rise to a level where you can operate at high capacity. Most artists today, it's my belief, have a hard time making getting any success because they're operating like they're working for someone. And if you're an artist, you're self-employed, artist. If you're doing the thing that you're like, man, I want to go and get gallery shows. I recently had a gallery show, and it was so much work. I hadn't had one in a while. It was so much work just to put everything together, put the artwork, of course, and different sizes and this and that, and the framing and the space and blah blah blah, all of this stuff, right? It has all of this work involved. And so at some point I started getting a little bit negative, right? And I'm jumping here just to kind of give you guys a little feedback of what I mean by this. Start getting a little negative. Man, this is all this work, blah blah. It's not that it's so much work. It's that I underestimated the amount of work it was going to take. Right? So when you underestimate the amount of work it's going to take for you to penetrate the market, for you to show your work in different platforms and different social media platforms, and consistently and persistently do that, and you underestimate, you're going to start getting negative, right? Because your belief in yourself is going to start coming down. It all has to do with your mindset. So as I mentioned in the beginning, if your mindset is at a place where you're moving, you're not doing busy work, you're actually getting things done. You're actually putting time and effort. It can't just be time. Employees put time. Unfortunately, most employees just put time, right? They're like, I gotta go to work, right? And they just kind of show up and they just kind of, they're doing something. They're putting time, but they're not necessarily putting effort, right? Because whether they put effort or not, this is what happens with many employees. Whether you put effort or not, you get paid the same, right? You get a paycheck until maybe your manager finds out that you're not underperforming, and then they're like, wow, it's time to go. But you can get away with that, right? But if you're an artist and you want to go into the market, you want to get gallery shows, you want to sell on eBay, you want to sell on Etsy, you want to do that kind of thing, right? You want to be able to create some value exchange, right? Whatever that is. If you're on online, then there's a certain value exchange you have to do. If you're offline, there's a certain value exchange. For example, if you're online, you're doing content creation. That's the value exchange of online. If you're offline, it's you, right? It's not like you're going to do content creation unless you're doing books or some type of physical content. You're maybe doing, I don't know, art classes in your local, I don't know, in your local art studio or whatever, art store, I don't know, stuff like that. So you're doing, it's going to come down to value, right? To exchanging value. But getting back, let me take some steps back a little bit, a couple of steps back. To, excuse me, to keeping your mindset right, it's one of those things that it sounds always kind of esoteric, okay? Here's the trick. Here's the secret, I guess, to whatever you do. I don't know if your deal is painting, if your deal is, whatever you do. You're a musician, you're a performer, you're a writer. Contrary to how we were raised and believe, because we were raised to say, oh, be smart about it. Be careful, be smart. You do things, really think it through. It's all a bunch of bullshit. It's not true. The more you do, the more you can do. It's the bottom line. The more, and this is my bottom line. This does not mean that it's the secret to life or it's the reality. This is my reality. I found out that outflow, right? Outflow is the holy grail. And this is not something I said. This is one of my mentors said that, right? Outflow is the holy grail. My mentors happen to be not art people. And there's a reason why I started looking for different mentors that were not art people, because I started noticing that as artists, we have a lot of mental blocks. And even the people that are, successful in the art world, I see that they have a lot of blocks. Like, I'm only a gallery person. Well, a lot of the artists were gallery people in the 80s, and look what happened, or I'm only online. Well, maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe for you it works. For me, I wouldn't think that's going to work. I can't just be online. I can't just be a gallery person. I can't just be eBay. I can't just be Etsy. I can't just be Saatchi Art. I got to be multiple things, and I got to try to, for example, a lot of people think that I'm just eBay, right? But they don't know that I'm always working commissions with people offline. And that's how I help sustain myself too, right? I do different stuff that it all has to do. It's symbiotic. That's another thing that I learned from one of my mentors. It works together, right? I don't have to go. I'm not selling shoes and then painting online, right? Like selling artwork on eBay. Like it goes together. So again, the more you do, the more you can do. This is one of those things that it's counterintuitive. Why? Because you think that the more you do, the more tired you're going to be. And it's not true. It's energy. It comes down to energy. A lot of people ask me, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. You blog, you do this, you do that, you paint. Some people have even accused me of saying, maybe you bring your paintings from China. I don't know. Like, no, like I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube where I'm painting every single one of them. It's just that I recognize that since I was young, since I was a young kid, I've always been about creating a lot, right? I believe in volumes of work. I believe in if you're doing speaking engagements, like speaking gigs, like you can't just do one a month or one a year. I mean, even if they pay you well, it's not going to cut it, right? You have to participate more, and then so that more opportunities open, right? But as many people, I was socialized and convinced as I started growing up by my family, peers, friends, and whatnot, that doing more was actually a bad idea, right? People still call me today. They'll call my home studio and be like, dude, you're putting so much work online. This is not right. Blah, blah, blah. Or I'll have galleries tell me like, you're not doing it right. I'm like, well, okay, whatever, to each their own. I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. I know that I'm doing it right for me, right? For me and my family. But how do you keep that mindset, right? If you're working, if you're creating your thing, your artwork, and you're doing your speaking thing, or you're maybe doing blogs, or you're writing articles, whatever you're doing, how do you keep the mindset at a high vibration? Because the mindset really is what dictates, right? It's your mindset. Whether you aim high or low, your mind is going to tell you it's a lot, right? It's a lot. Oh, it's a lot. It's so much. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. So again, today's Mindset Monday, so I get to talk about, guys, keeping your mindset right in the right place. So I've already talked about how the mind, your right mindset is what has you. It's what dictates where you go, right? Whether you do one commission a year or one commission a month, you're going to procrastinate if you're not used to it. If you don't build that muscle, you're going to procrastinate. D. Tom says, off topic, but you have an amazing vocabulary. I write down words to use to remember them. Thank you so much, D. English is my second language, so thank you so much. I appreciate that. My Starbucks, yeah. And I don't just operate on coffee, guys. I drink a lot of water. It's just that I have a little thing that I started doing. Every time I do a vlog, I'll show you guys I'm drinking my Starbucks. Hopefully, the Schultz guy, hey, what's his name? Is it Howard Schultz or one of these guys? Hopefully he'll see me one day and be like, dude, I'm just going to send you a barista to your art studio. My wife is laughing. I'm looking for a big art studio, right? So we're looking for a big warehouse, and I'm like, man, it would be so awesome to have a barista here. Anyways, I was looking at some of it. I was like, oh, I was getting excited. At least one of those little machines, right? Those little Starbucks machines. maybe a barista is far-fetched, but who knows? Imagine having your personal barista, honey. Dreams do come true. That would be like the ultimate. Like, I remember having some interns helping me, not long ago, and I was like, man, you know what I really want? I want the chef and a barista. Anyways, that's off topic, guys. But to get back to this, how do you keep your mindset, right, to a level where you're vibrating at Like everybody else is looking at you and they're like, man, they're scratching their head. How do you get things done? How do you do it? It's a muscle that you're building, right? It's a muscle. You keep building this muscle. However, I found myself, even though I've built this muscle, I found myself having these days or maybe even a week, where I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's going on. What's going on? I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Guys, I'm going to tell you, yes, people say it's your mind, and it is your mind. But I found out how to trigger it, how to trigger your mindset. And the way that you do, right? The reason why your mindset is off is because you stop putting in the time. Now, you may be going into the studio, but you're kind of like doing other stuff. You're busy work, right? And so you find yourself not in flow. And if you find yourself not in flow, it's sort of like, like you stop putting the time. It's not sort of, it's exactly this. You stop putting the time. So therefore, your creativity is something that you have to maintain. It's not something that it's given to you. Creativity is something that comes as a reward, as a result of putting in the time and the work. Right? What I mean by creativity, I'm talking about every aspect of creativity, whether it's speed, whether it's like all these ideas that come to you, recognizing opportunities, learning how to do things in a more artistic way or whatever, and you know what to do. Like things are rolling for you. You know what to do. It's a reward by the gods. It's rewarded to you. You don't get to say, I'm going to be creative today. BS. I don't think so. You can be like, oh, I'm going to be creative. Yeah, I'm going to write down some notes and I'm going to be creative. And you can spend all night. I've done that. It doesn't work. The way to be creative is that you start working and you start putting in the time and the time and the time. And then that starts rewarding you. It flowers. It rewards you. The thing is that when you stop putting in the time, you start slacking, right? I talked to another artist friend who lives here in Arizona too. And we're talking about the same thing. This guy, he does amazing on eBay too. And he's telling me, man, have you found yourself slacking? You know what happens when you slack? Like you just slack a little bit. And I was like, I know. You can feel it because you're used to operating at a certain vibration level. And I'm not talking about some esoteric, but maybe it is esoteric. I don't know. But like physical vibration level, right? That if you slack for a couple of hours here and there, or if you slack for a couple of days, man, you'll feel it like that. You just feel it, right? Because you're used to moving at such speed. Right, you're moving at such speed, like where people come my studio and they're like, man, how do you do it? What, like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm this, person, blah, blah, blah. But I'll make time to do these videos. I'll make time to blog. I do other blogs too on YouTube that are not these videos. I'll make time to do articles, and I'll make time to do, I have a line of art commissions that I do from online and offline, and I make time for them because I understand that time is elastic. It's elastic. So I'll put as much as possible in that time, right? But I know that if I start slacking, even if it's a little bit, my creativity goes to hell. And then I don't know how to pick it up, right? In that moment, I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? My mindset's not right. Oh man, I'm worried. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. What's going on? The reason why your creativity went down, this is just me. I don't know if it happens to you. It's because you stop putting in the time. You stop putting in the time, then you don't know what to do. Why? You stop trusting yourself. Even if you know how to do things. Let's say that, I don't know, when I was a kid, I used to ride horses in Mexico. It was a thing, and I see this. I always see these guys, right? In Mexico, there's these people called charros. They're Mexican cowboys, the guys with the big hats. And I remember hearing them because I was afraid of falling. Right? I was a little kid. Man, I'm gonna fall because I fell once. And this charro told me, right? This Mexican cowboy told me, man, the only hombre that falls is the hombre that rides, right? If you don't ride, you won't fall. And this saying just kind of stuck with me, right? The only man that does not fall is the one that does not ride. And it just kind of stuck with me. Like, even if you may know how to do something, but if you don't if you don't practice it, right, you're not going to be at this capacity, right? Whether it's a sport or whatever it is. I remember again, this book called Relentless. Those of you who are into this craziness that I do, which is goal life, right? Seize the day, right? Like, do as much as you can in one day. Like, don't play around. Do as much as you can. This guy in this book, I think his name's Tim Grover. Relentless is the name of the book. He says that he used to coach Michael Jordan, and he said, you know, before Michael Jordan went into the practice, the team practice, he would actually practice for like 8 or so hours, you know, before the team practice. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh man, that's amazing. Like, you know, this guy understands that he has to put in the time first in order for him to perform at high capacity with his teammates, you know. And this is something that if you're not operating at that level, you forget. So you start scratching your head. This is what's happened to me. You know, it's happened to me all last week. I was like, oh man, scratching my head. I was like, oh man, what's going on? I don't feel inspired. Something's happening. And I'm still doing things, right? I'm still putting more hours than most people that do what I do. But something, you know, what's going on? I don't know. I'm not sure. And then I find myself, dude, you're not putting in the time. Like, do an audit. Again, I go back to that. Do an audit, right? Be extremely realistic with yourself, right? Do an audit. Like, how much time do I spend actually in the studio, okay? In the studio. And how much of that time that I spend in the studio do I spend actually working, right? Creating artwork or whatever you do. I know some artists that they don't create artwork like me. They don't create like volumes of artwork. What they do is that they'll create some pieces, but they'll spend, I don't know, 5 hours, you know. They'll spend 3 hours, 4 hours creating artwork, maybe less, I don't know, every day. And then they'll spend 5, 6 hours like just beating it into the market through Instagram, through, you know, whatever, buying Google ads, buying Facebook ads, whatever. But they'll spend all that time just getting it into the market. Either way is the same. It doesn't matter. Like, it will come down to how much time you're spending, right? How much time, and if you're playing the bigger game, it's all, you have to spend money. It's obvious. You have to spend energy. Like I said before in other videos, if you're an artist, and it doesn't matter if you're an artist or not, but we're talking about artists here. You either got time or you got money. You got one of both, right? Either or. When you don't have time, it means that you're creating more income, right? So you have to get creative. And in the beginning, most of us have a lot of time. We just don't realize it. So, but you know, we keep telling ourselves, man, I don't have time. I don't have time. It's all procrastination. It's not true, and it's all a lie. Regardless of what you do, I've come to understand time is elastic. Time is elastic. And you can do something, but if you have, you know, if you're like focused and you stop behaving like an employee, you actually start behaving like the boss, you'll do wonders in half an hour. You'll do wonders in 15 minutes, you know. It only takes me about 10, 15 minutes to do most of my social media. And that's because I'll put a timer and I'll be like, on, boom, and not play around with it, right? Not watch a video, try to go get something to eat while I'm doing it, check my phone. All of that stuff is that's the kind of stuff that messes with your mindset, right? It's the kind of stuff that really, it throws you off. And before you know it, the more you do that, it comes down to slacking, right? You start slacking. Before you know it, you stop trusting yourself. Painting, I come to believe in my personal life, painting is about trust. When you trust yourself, you feel like you're Da Vinci, right? It doesn't matter what anyone else tells me. I'm like, oh man, like, look at my artwork, because I have a high level of trust. And the only way I've gotten that high level of trust is because I put in the time. I've put in the time, and I've stretched myself. I've gotten out of my comfort zones. A lot of people try to do like what's comfortable, like, oh, what's she doing? What's he doing? All that, it's comfortable. But you have to like break away from that. You have to break away from your comfort zone. You have to grow yourself, right? And that's where the gold is. But again, I know it's a little off topic. I know I've touched different things. It really has to do with mindset. It all has to do with mindset, where you are in your mindset. But there are ways to trigger it. That's what I'm trying to say, because it's very abstract when people tell us, you just got to get your mindset right. Yeah, it's so easier said than done. It's such a difficult thing because you have so many things, right? Your day, your life is so dynamic. You have so many different. You may be a daughter, a son, a mother, a cousin, whatever. You may have an illness. You may be working through your marriage, maybe a divorce. I don't know. Like, there's all these dynamics, right? It doesn't matter, but there's all these dynamics. I'm not trying to say to use them as excuses. I'm trying to say that there's all these dynamics, and it's easy to get lost in them. So in different circumstances, right? Challenges that are happening in our life. So how do you then apply that? It's mindset. How do you apply it, right? You go to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is going to say it's mindset, right? One of my mentors, he's always like, it's mindset, but you got to figure out how to put yourself in that mindset. Bingo. For me, that when he said that, I was like, got it. Okay, so what do I do to put myself in that mindset? So there's all these tools, and I'm coming up with more tools also that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. If you guys are watching me on YouTube too, I'm gonna come up with tools that I'm going to share with you guys. It's going to be different little pamphlets and different little things that have helped me stay in this mindset. For example, if you go to my studio, you find posters that trigger my mindset, things that I know that are going to trigger my mindset, that are going to trigger, oh, okay, this is the way I should be thinking. This is the way I need to be thinking. For example, one of the things that I have right over my easel is a poster by Andy Warhol, who said, don't worry about making paintings or something like that. Don't worry about creating art, whether it's good or bad. Just go do more while people are deciding whether they like it or hate it, something like that. I'm giving you guys a loose translation. He's like, keep doing more. Why is he talking about that? Because it's in the doing that you find your edge. It's in the doing. You will never find your edge in the thinking. You're not going to find your edge in like, oh, let me be clever. What am I going to paint next? You don't know what you're going to paint next. And people ask me like, how do you find ideas? I don't know what I'm going to paint next. It's not something that I've done that though. I've done that. I've sat and I've done my homework and I've done that. But there comes a point where you have to just start trusting yourself and just start moving forward. And in the moving is where you start getting creative. I started learning that you don't get creative by trying to be smart or trying to be clever. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get clever. I'm gonna try to do things that in a clever way, kind of sneaky, clever way. I'm gonna do this. When I was younger, I remember I used to think like, oh, I'm gonna do this artwork, and I'm gonna mix this with this and that with this, and I'm gonna use what they're using over there, and I'm gonna make a clever concoction, and then everybody's gonna like it. And it's BS. It doesn't come out of that. It comes out of work. It's work. It's always work. In artwork, we forget the word work. We just think art, but it's just as important, if not more important, the word work. When you get the work right, the art is going to follow. What we try to do, this is one of my mentors says, creativity follows commitment. This person has been such a blessing. Creativity follows commitment. This is one of the things that when I started learning that, I was like, oh man, I see what this is about. This is about the same thing else in life, right? You cannot win at any game unless you commit. And if you commit, you have to put in time, resources. In the beginning, you're not going to put money because there is no money, right, to generate. But as you're committing, right, you start gaining resources, and the resources you got is time and effort. I mean, it's more valuable than money. Most people are like, man, I can't wait till I get an art agent. I can't wait till I get a bigger studio. I can't wait till I get, A, B, and C. And it's BS. That's not true. It's your strongest, your most powerful resources is your time and your effort. How much effort you put, your strength, your vitality, because you can do so many things. Just think about how many phone calls you can do in 1 hour, or how many phone calls, how many people you can touch, how many people you can go and talk to about your artwork, or how many people in one day. I'm not talking about in a year, or just in one day. How many people? Like if you were like, if someone was like, you're going to have to go talk to 10 people right now. You only have 30 minutes about your artwork, or I'm going to kill you. Some unrealistic shit like that, right? You would find the strength in you. You wouldn't talk to 10 people. You talk to 100 in half an hour. You'd be like, I'm going to talk to everybody. Now people are really like, this is desperate. This is not the way things are done. Okay, well, cool. Everybody to each their own. I believe that it's effort, and I believe that it's raw effort. And the way, again, I know I'm hammering this, the way that you get your mindset right is through doing, because it's going to give you self-esteem. It always comes back to self-esteem. Artists who are shitty artists, they're not shitty artists because they're shitty artists. It's because they don't trust themselves, because they haven't developed enough self-esteem. I remember when I started when I started painting, I was like, I was afraid, right? I was like this. I was afraid. Why? Why was I afraid? Because I didn't trust myself, because I didn't know what I was doing. The moment I started putting in the time, the hours, right? The time, the effort, the commitment, that you start trusting yourself. Now, I've put the commitment and I put the time, but I need to stretch myself to a higher point. I'm always looking for that higher point in my life, right? And now that I know how to paint, that I can create artwork, that I'll sell my artwork and whatnot, I still fall in those moments, right? Where I'm like, I'm scared. And I realize, dude, why are you scared about it if you already know how to create the artwork, if you already know what to do? The reason why I found that I'm scared is because I slacked. Whether it was an hour, 2 hours a day, because now I'm operating at a different level than how I was operating 2-3 years ago, or 10 years ago. 10 years ago I was like, oh yeah, I can paint. But I didn't know what it was to show up to the studio every day and put in 3 hours, much less the hours that I put in today. I didn't know what it was. It was extremely uncomfortable to even just show up to the studio every day and just stand there and look at it. So it's again, it's going to come down to that, and that's how you trigger your state of mind. I'm doing a whole audiobook on this. As you guys can see, I love talking. I'm doing a whole audiobook. I'm writing down. I'm putting down my book, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Those of you who like this kind of stuff, I think you guys are going to enjoy it, and I'm gonna go in depth, because I haven't gotten in depth in this video. So I kind of just rant, along, but I have certain points I want to touch, and how do you get from A to Z, right? How I'm going to hold you by the hand essentially, and I'm going to show you, look, this is what worked for me. This is what you do first. This is what you do next, and on and on and on. And so that way you can be at a high vibration level where people look at you and like, man, how do you do it? How do you do it? How are you doing that? But one of the things that I've learned was Picasso was in his 70s, right? And he's creating so much artwork. And a lot of people don't think that it was his or whatever. Okay, cut it in half if you want to. It's in the world, Guinness World of Records. He created 147,000 artworks. Now, I don't know how some of them were, monotypes or whatever, but it was done by his hands, right? I'm not talking about prints. I'm talking about works that were done by his hands. So, and he said it. He said, I'm always doing things that are impossible. That's how I get them done. Just imagine the type of mindset, right? One day he was in the middle of the Spanish War, and in his studio, and he didn't leave his studio even though bullets were flying everywhere. I mean, it was the middle of war, right? It was a civil war, and that day, it's known that he finished 5 large paintings. 5 large paintings. Now you can say he didn't. Because he's abstract, he did them really fast or whatever, right? But he was in a studio where bullets were flying, and the only reason he left because some bullets started flying through the window. So he packed his stuff and he left to another studio nearby. but it's so cool, I mean, that part, whatever. But this person believed that he could do more, and that he had that. Now maybe more artwork is not your gig. It doesn't have to be, because we all do things differently. If it's not your gig, you're probably barking at the wrong tree. But doing more in different ways. Again, maybe you need to do more in doing blogs. And maybe your artwork, it's not like that. And, you know, because we all create artwork differently. But maybe you need to write articles. Maybe you need to interview people on YouTube or this or that. There's so many things you can do that you can do more, that you can be expansive in your message. Because it comes down to how do I tell the world what I'm doing. And as my mentor said, when you're ready to tell the world, think of it this way. Whatever you do, it's not good enough. You have to do a lot, right? When you're ready to tell the world. It's like getting rocks and throwing them and trying to fill up the Grand Canyon with rocks, right? One pebble at a time. That's what it is. So most people are like, I'm going to put a YouTube video. Good luck, you know. I'm going to post something on Facebook. Good luck again. Like, take it down. You don't even exist. Like, unless you're committed to Facebook, then it's the moment that I started committing to Facebook was when it started working for me. You know, now it's working for me, but it wasn't until I started getting committed to it. Like, you have to be committed, and it takes a lot of effort. And there's days that, you know, you want to cry, but then again, that's where you grow, right? And the uncomfortable is where you grow, as the great Marcus Aurelius said, right? We didn't come to this world to be comfortable. We came here to be uncomfortable. That's where we grow. So I'll leave you guys with that. The name is Jose Trujillo. I am the world's greatest living artist. The art world chose me. I didn't choose the art world. I'm sorry, guys. If you guys think you guys are the greatest living artists, I am the world's greatest. You can be too. Why not? Take care, guys. Give me some hearts if you like my chat today. I'm gonna go into consulting too. I know a lot of people have asked me. They called me. And they're like, dude, you need to help me out with this kind of stuff. Or, you know, maybe they're having trouble on online sales, or they're having trouble to commissions. I have some of the best ways that work for me in commissioning work. And I'm going to be sharing that. Also, I'm going to be making some videos, but I'm also going to be doing some coaching, some one-on-one with people. And I think it's cool. You know, whatever I've learned that I can help someone, of course I'm going to do it. And if you don't want to, of course you don't want to pay anything. I haven't set up my coaching gig yet. I'm working on it. But if you don't want to pay anything, I mean, don't. Just go to YouTube and watch. I have over 1,000 videos there. You can, you know, get what you can and try to. I'm just sharing my stuff. It's not the ultimate truth, but it's what's worked for me. And if you know, and if it works for you, great. So I'll leave you with that, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. Till next time. Adios.